accessibility. That's how WSFS has become the largest locally headquartered business lender in the region. We're WSFS Bank, and we stand for service. How can we help your business grow? To learn more, visit WSFSbank.com. Member FDIC.
Headlines you can't get through your day without. On Power 101.7.
Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said on Wednesday that as many as 1,500 Americans may still be waiting for evacuation from Afghanistan, and given for the first time an estimate of about 6,000 Americans having wanted to leave when the airlift began August 14th as the Taliban moved into Kabul. Blinken said some 4,500 Americans have already been evacuated, part of the 82,000. Wow. 82,300 total. That includes at-risk Afghans and others in an airlift so far, according to the White House. Additionally, Major General Hank Taylor, Deputy Director of Regional Operations for the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said U.S. forces have conducted another helicopter mission to pick up people and bring them to the Kabul airport. The situation getting to the airport remains chaotic, with the secretary a security alert issued yesterday warning U.S. citizens to stay away from 3 specific airport gates due to the threats from ISIS-K, the Islamic State affiliation in Afghanistan. President Biden has cited security threats from ISIS-K in saying he's sticking to the August 31st deadline for withdrawal. However, he asked for contingency plans in case, he decides to extend the deadline. Blinken also emphasized yesterday that the U.S. and other countries will continue to help Americans and Afghans who want to leave after the deadline next Tuesday.
Okay.
So we are, we're getting there.
Because we're, 36 hours out now, right?
Yeah. So there you go. Firefighters were trying to hold back the Calder fire in Northern California as it moved within 20 miles of Lake Tahoe yesterday, as smoke from the fire put a blanket of haze over the region. South Lake Tahoe and Tahoe City had the nation's worst air pollution at mid-morning yesterday. The Calder fire has burned more than 197 square miles and destroyed at least 461 homes since August 14th. It was only 11% contained as of yesterday.
That's devastating.
Definitely devastating. Like, we have other problems over on the East Coast, but Central America going to the West Coast, I mean, it's just the wildfires are crazy. I couldn't imagine. Just couldn't imagine dealing with some of them wildfires.
You lose everything.
Yeah. Let's see here. The Federal Appeals Court yesterday upheld the federal conviction of Dylan Roof and his death sentence for killing 9 people at an historic black church in Charleston, South Carolina in 2015 in a race-driven shooting. The 3-judge panel rejected arguments that Roof, who is white, should have been ruled incompetent to stand trial. His attorneys also argued that he was wrongly allowed to represent himself during sentencing when he was able to keep jurors from hearing evidence about his mental health. Roof in 2017 became the first person in the U.S. sentenced to death for a federal hate crime after he opened fire during a Bible study at the Mother Emanuel AME Church. Wow. Do you remember the guy? Remember when all the restrictions were going on? And, I mean, they were closing businesses and then only said, 50% capacity, 25%, all this stuff that went on last year. We were doing curbside and all this.
Yes.
Well, Michigan was pretty tight.
Yeah, they were.
I mean, they were, one of the most strictest next to New York, maybe even worse.
We were watching tons of videos that were being sent.
The governor of Michigan, I mean, Gretchen Whitmer, they were really talking about her and she just wants to stay closed and all this.
Right.
Well, there was a guy who threatened to kill her because of all that and put her in the trunk and all this. Well, the 25-year-old man was sentenced to just over 6 years in prison yesterday for plotting to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer last year because he was upset at the state-ordered coronavirus restrictions. All right? Ty Garbin is among 6 men charged in federal court in the plot, but he's the only one to plead guilty so far after he quickly decided to admit his wrongdoing after his arrest. He's also cooperating in building cases against others. Garbin apologized. He said, I cannot even, imagine the amount of stress and fear on Whitmer's family because of my actions, and I'm truly sorry.
What? But he still has to do 6 years?
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he didn't threaten to kill her. He just threatened to kidnap her.
Wow.
You know, so unbelievable.
People at that time.
I was getting ready to the same thing you're getting ready to say. I was thinking the same thing. Like, look, no one's taken up for what he did. No one's taken up.
I will say I did see some behavior from some people that.
But when you're taking away someone's livelihood and everything, the world's changing like that. People
they really
fly off the handle. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to act.
Yep.
No, you shouldn't threaten to kidnap, the governor. But I mean, it's just
fear, panic.
Yeah.
It was just a different time.
And she, you got the governor up there smiling. Hey, we're going to shut down your business and we're doing this for public health. And you're like, shut down my business. How am I going to eat?
Yeah. I know. This is like what you've worked.
Yes. Your whole life for.
Yeah. I know.
And I mean, it just went on and on and on and on, and it kept getting worse, and before it got better, and it's like,
wow.
So he said, I'm a kidnapper.
6 years.
Yeah. Wow. OnlyFans. Let's get an update on OnlyFans.
Yes.
Less than a week.
Tell me more.
Less than a week after saying it would ban sexually explicit content, leading to an outcry from creators of that type of content and sex worker advocates. OnlyFans has reversed itself yesterday. The subscription site said the ban was, quote, no longer required due to banking partner assurances that OnlyFans can support all genres of creators.
Oh.
Okay, OnlyFans had said in announcing the ban last week that the issue was the policies of banks and payment processors. A bipartisan group of more than 100 members of Congress called the Justice Department to investigate OnlyFans earlier this month, calling it a major marketplace for sexual videos with children in them. So I don't know anything about the children and all that.
I'm not down with that. Yeah,
but if they want sexually explicit content,
I do know that that's how people that's their livelihood.
Yeah.
That's all
they're going to continue to allow it.
That's their, job.
As long as it ain't illegal, they're going to continue to allow it. Yeah.
Big money.
Well, the dude, the wife who wrote in, the dude had a subscription.
Yeah.
And we talked about that in a relationship. Question of the day.
Yes.
She was upset that her husband had a subscription to OnlyFans.
Who's the girl? She was on Dr. Phil. How about that?
How about that? You hear me say it. Everyone's like, how about that?
What's her name?
Meet me outside. How about that?
Oh, what is her last name? Anyway.
Dummy. That's her last name.
Yeah, well, she's a rich dummy. So, say what you want, but she's a rich one.
She's on OnlyFans?
She's a rich dummy.
Only for saying, how about that?
What you want, but she's
only
a
for
rich
saying,
dummy.
meet me outside, how about that?
Here's her page. You can subscribe for $23.99 a month.
23? What?
And
yes.
People pay. But she broke records.
Wow.
Yep, on how much money.
And a federal judge yesterday sanctioned campaign lawyers for former President Donald Trump, including Sidney Powell and good old Lynn Wood, over a lawsuit that tried to overturn Michigan's 2020 election results, baselessly alleging widespread fraud. U.S. District Judge Linda Parker formally requested a disciplinary body to investigate whether the attorneys should be disbarred from filing the lawsuit, which said, quote, abuse the well-established rules applicable to litigation process. Parker dismissed the lawsuit last December, saying it was based on, quote, speculation. She is requiring that Powell, Wood, and other attorneys pay legal fees associated with the lawsuit and attend classes on the ethical requirements for filing lawsuits. Okay. So there we go. And then real quick, Jess, I know we're not going to have time to do a whole lot of sports, but the Orioles beat the Angels last night to end the 19-game losing streak.
Thank goodness.
Just want to put that out there, okay?
Thank
Finally. Shout out to all the Oriole fans. Real quick, Jess, you got some local stories?
Yeah, so in Salisbury, 2 men are being indicted in federal court for stealing and embezzling nearly $900,000.
God sake.
$2 Salisbury
$900,000.
an unsealed federal indictment. It alleges that the acting Maryland state's attorney is alleging that for nearly 6 years, two men, Stephen Franklin and Dwayne Larmore, defrauded Shore Appliance Connection by opening phony loans that had no intention of paying them back. And instead, the men used this money and they invested the money in the stock market. They declared it as income from other businesses such as Accurate Optical, all while impersonating and stealing the identity of the owner of Shore Appliance. I know. The details say that Larimore and Franklin at one point impersonated the victims of the scheme to a bank, all to extend Shore Appliance's credit line even further and receiving more loans to keep their illegal payday going. The FBI was involved, and the office says that these two men, which, if convicted, will allow restitution to be made to Shore Appliance Connections, which he says had a business operation and its credit harmed as a result of this scam.
Wow.
$900,000, and it went on for over 6 years.
Also, real quick, we're trying to get Senator Mary Beth Carozza on to talk about it, but the Maryland State School Board will vote today whether to institute a statewide mandate requiring every child and adult to be masked in schools. Although the Central Maryland School District have mandated all students and faculty to wear masks to prevent the spread of COVID-19, 5 counties, including Worcester, do not have a similar requirement in place. And we talked to Superintendent Lou Taylor earlier this week. He's great. The school board voted to hold a special meeting at 3 p.m. today just to consider whether to pass such an emergency regulation. Now, I thought only Governor Larry Hogan had that authority, but I guess now somebody else has an authority.
Yeah.
They can't get it done through Hogan. They're going to find a way.
Because you said that this will cover every Maryland school.
Yeah. And now, but here's the thing. At least 4 other board members spoke in support of the motion to impose a mandate, but it's unclear if the majority will vote in favor. The board has 14 members, including a student.
Okay.
So we still got some hope, y'all,
right.
if you want it to still be a choice. I got a press release from Senator Mary Beth Carozza. She issued a statement about the planned Maryland State Board of Education vote. She says, throughout the entire pandemic, COVID-19, I have continuously pushed for local control, and authority when it comes to reopening businesses, schools, and vaccinations, which she has. She's been great. We have overcome so much already, still have a long health and economic recovery ahead of us, noting her work with local businesses and restaurants in the past year and her efforts to encourage her constituents to be vaccinated. A statewide masking order for all school systems that overrides the decision of the local boards of education is not the answer. Our local leaders know their communities the best, and we should trust their judgment when determining what is best for the most valuable resource, our children. So there you go. And then she went on, but she's been a fighter for the people. She
has.
And like I said, I've reached out. We're going to try to get her on this morning to talk about it. All right? It is the Bill and Jessica show. It's 6:59.
We're sending you to New York